are 20,000 lawyers in the state, but they picked the one who was the right-hand man of Jesse Helms, who has had a clear track record of being biased and being hateful, basically, on the issue of race as it relates to voting rights, as it relates to civil rights, as it relates to what should otherwise be equal protection under the law. And it's interesting. We were having that rally in the shadow of the United States Supreme Court where Thurgood Marshall once walked and worked. And, you know, there are words that are inscribed in that marble, equal justice under the law. And Thomas Farr couldn't be further from an advocate of equal justice under the law.
Senator Harris, where are we in the process of his nomination? Where does that stand right now?
Well, he's been nominated, and there's been a hearing, and then what we have coming up is a vote.
Okay.
And so what we want to urge is all senators to vote against him, because we can do better. And again, remember, this is a lifetime appointment. We are, I would not be on this phone with you right now as a member of the United States Senate if the United States Supreme Court, and meaning all those judges who are members of the United States Supreme Court, had not passed Brown v. Board of Education.
Right.
The work that happens in our courtrooms, in the courtrooms of America, has long-standing generational impact, especially on the issue of civil rights. And this man has a proven track record of being hostile to equal rights under the law and hostile to working people. And when we talk about the black community, when we talk about our community, we need fighters who understand the importance of equality and the need to strive for equality, which we don't have. We don't have it, and we need it, and we need to fight for it.
Senator Kamala Harris with us. Doesn't Thomas Farr also, Senator Harris, reflect this administration? After all, he's Trump's nominee. Isn't it also consistent with what Trump is doing with the NFL anthem policy and everything else, where he seems like he's trying to divide the nation along race and culture?
I think so, and I'll tell you, that's very clear. He and this administration and many others who are advocates and proponents of this administration and its policies, powerful voices are trying to sow hate and division in our country. And my perspective is this: I'm not buying into that. I believe the vast majority of Americans have so much more in common than what separates us. And this is a moment in time to fight against all of that, those proponents of hate and division. And the way I think about it, Reverend, when folks wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, in a cold sweat, worrying about that thing that's been weighing on them, it is never through the lens of some demographic a pollster put them in, or even the party with which they're registered to vote. And for the vast majority of us, it has to do with one of just a few things when we wake up in the middle of the night, right? It's our personal health, the health of our children or our parents. Can I get a job, keep a job, pay the bills, retire those student loans for so many of our students? And we need to fight for the core of who we are and fight for the ideals. But this, you look at Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of the United States, who is attempting to revive the war on drugs, who is dismantling what had otherwise under General Holder been pattern and practice investigations around the country, consent decrees. And they're dismantling all of that. And this is and it's happening right now. It's happening right now. What is happening and what this administration is doing is much bigger than a rally or a speech. They are literally putting in place policies and procedures that are having an impact on people's lives right now. And we need to see it for what it is, and we need to fight against it.
You were an attorney general in the largest state. So I don't remember the governor at that time treating you as his personal attorney or making demands of you. There really is a firewall, even though, and of course you were elected out there too. That's a little bit different. But isn't the Attorney General of the United States really supposed to function the same way as you did as an elected state attorney general? Absolutely.
These are independent offices. I'll take you back to the Kennedy years. There's been a lot of rightful kind of reflection on 1968. Remember that John Kennedy JFK put his brother in as Attorney General. And there was a whole big thing about that, and the rules were changed because they're after that saying, no, we need to have independence. And there was a funny quote that I've always loved, and he said, well, I put my brother there because my mother didn't have a law degree.
I love it. I love it.
Or at least that's how the story goes.
Right.
But there has to be, and so I'm making light of what is otherwise a very serious matter, which is that this president has to understand that this attorney general is not his whipping boy,
Yeah.
and it's a separate, independent office that is supposed to do justice and be unimpaired and disconnected from the politics. Because, being a prosecutor, and I was a career prosecutor, you have so much power, and the power should be to do justice and not do the political whims and wills of the person who appointed you.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Let me get your reaction to one of the hot button issue right now, and that's the issue of tariffs, which are affecting our allies and neighbors. The White House imposing tariffs. What are your thoughts about that and the risks involved?
Well, I mean, listen, I support free trade and fair trade. I believe that we need to also deal with China and confront China and not punish our allies. Mm-hmm. And it's short-sighted to do otherwise. And I'm very concerned about what's happening.
Yeah, and we need to be on top of it.
And we should be working with Canada and those countries that will hold China accountable for fair trade policies. And, this most recent news that's coming out about the tension with our neighbors and most recently with Canada, it's misguided. And I think that history is going to show it's just not smart.
Big wins on Tuesday in Democratic primaries, especially in your state. You mentioned your predecessors and how where you are because of them, but I think women are doing so well in California and around the country because of you. I mean, you were elected a couple of years ago, and that's inspired a lot of people. But congratulations on California. That's good news, isn't it?
Thank you. It is, and it's been wonderful to see a lot more women running, many of whom have never run before. And, not to the exclusion of men who run, but I have found that when women decide to jump in there, it is the motivation usually has nothing to do with themselves and everything to do with an issue that has propelled them to speak up and to be a part of a solution. And so it's wonderful to see. But it's not only California, it's happening around the country.
Right.
I went down to Atlanta to campaign for Stacey Abrams. And, you can just see not only her most recent election in terms of coming through the primary, but her campaign has motivated so many women who otherwise have never participated to be active. And I just think that's good for democracy. Yeah. It's really good for democracy. And I'll tell you, having said this point about, this is an inflection point and we have to fight, I do also strongly believe we have to find these moments where we can also see the light and see the brightness. And there's a lot of good that is happening as a result of, the darkness and what is not good.
Yeah.
And part of it is so many people seeing seeing their power and knowing that if they get out there and if they're marching, if they're at these rallies, if they're involved in a campaign, if they choose to run, them knowing they can make a difference because they can and they are. And, 2017 was so rough. It was my first year in the Senate, and I ended the year, and I said, I am just tired of being, frustrated and troubled and concerned and, stressed out. And I decided my New Year's resolution for 2018, I am going to be, and this is the name I gave myself, I'm going to be a joyful warrior.
I know that's right. I like that.
Right?
I like that a lot.
Find time to sing and dance because the other stuff is not sustainable.
Yeah,
it's not.
It is.
We got a big fight. We got to be in it.
And we have to have a positive outlook and remain energized.
Yeah.
Golden State Warriors.
How about my Warriors? I'm born in Oakland, so I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. So that's.
I am so.
This is real.
And Durant last night. It was good. It was a good game. It was a good game.
You
So
know,
we'll see. On to Friday.
you know what I always say to you when I see you. So, have you considered my offer to chair your presidential campaign in 2020, or have you made a decision? You saw how I did. I asked about me, not about you. So, would you consider my?
Let's get. You know what? I appreciate you. Let's focus on 2018.
Right.
We've got these Senate races and these House races, and the outcome of 2018 is going to decide so many things and so much. And so let's focus on that for right now.
Okay. All right. Senator Kamala Harris, our very special guest. Again, always a pleasure to speak with you.
And you, and thank you for your voice and your leadership.
All right. Thank you as well. Enjoy your day, okay?
You too.
All right.